So we're going to talk about the logo design assignment, which is essentially taking three letter forms and spending time exploring the relationships of the letter forms using principles of design, which would be those of balance, unity, repetition, rhythm, some of the basic areas of design that you are working on as a designer here at the school. And let me share my screen. Here, if you see my screen, you will see that I have created 9 different solutions for this assignment. And so you're going to follow these same steps. Here, you're also going to create 9 different arrangements. I call them lockups because we're taking 2 or 3 different letter forms. And in this instance, I've used the initials of my name, but you are open to use any letters that you like, and you can use 2 or 3, but I really recommend you use 3. It gives you a greater challenge to have more strokes and ascenders and descenders to have to make decisions about. So first of all, I just want to say that I'd like you to not make dramatic adjustments to the letter forms in terms of their size. I'd like you to kind of keep kind of follow the rules that I have used in creating these 9 examples. So you're going to create 3 sets of 3, and the directions here are at the top of each set. So the first set of 3 are combined forms. So you're really exploring how these letter forms work when you bring them together. So one of the principles of design are that as elements draw closer together, they start to interact with each other in a more dynamic way. So as you pull these letters closer together, you're starting to create to the viewer's eye, you're starting to create some unusual relationships. And so I've created 3 here across. And what I want to do is use this dashed line to represent what happens when you bring these letter forms together in a tight pack. You start to get angles and relationships when the eye looks at all of them together. And here you can see how the eye might see those relationships with this dashed line. So you've got this sort of descending angle here on the one on the left, here on the one on the in the one in the middle. You have sort of you have a couple of different types of forms that are coming together through through their unification. You have this step up at the top, and then you still have this angle here at the bottom. And then over here on the right, by making the R significantly smaller than the other letters, you start to get an unusual and interesting relationship with alignment. So as you work through this process, consider the alignments on the left and the right and the bottom and the top. Those are very important. And then also look at the stroke and the weights, and also some of these cross hatches here. In this instance, I took the R, I took the baseline of the R, the serif meets up with the F. And in this one over here, the R and the P are at the same baseline, and the alignment of the F and the R are directly above each other. So if I turn off this group here, you can see how that all works together. The other important thing is the space between these. That becomes a relationship. So the space between the F and the R, that space right here, is equidistant to the space between the R and the P, right? Or you've got this, the serif on the R and the P creates a space that has a relationship to the space between the letters. That is something that you really want to look at as you explore these. Same here, these strokes on the R, the F, and the P, these vertical strokes, by and large are equidistant, not entirely, because I've got some issues of crowding between the letter forms up here, but it does create a certain amount of balance. And that would be the same over here with all three of these letter forms. So you create, visually, you create these three large vertical lines, right? And it's almost like as if you could eliminate the serifs and all of the other elements of the letter forms, you would have three columns. I mean, you'd have three lines that are parallel to one another and equally spaced. So let's look at the second line. The second set will be overlaying forms. So explore what new shapes are created by overlaying these letter forms. So you don't have to, you can either butt them up against each other, sort of kiss one letter form to the other, which is what is done here in the example on the left, or you can actually completely overlay them and see how those relationships work. On the one on the right, the R and the P are meeting to create a right angle, but there's a little bit of space here for the F. If I were to take the F and move it to the right so that it overlays the R, it might create a legibility issue. Here in the one in the center, the stem of the R, and I've exaggerated that size, creates an interesting set of negative spaces. Negative space is that white space that's created, right? And as you're doing these, by the way, I suggest you do all of them in black, because that will really give you a chance to look at the basics. Here I've created some color just so that you can see what is that white space. So I'm highlighting it as a magenta color so you can see how I've paid attention to the white spaces here, and they become important elements for this set. And then on the last one, it's reversed forms. So you're really taking one or two of your letter forms, you're overlaying it, and you're also reversing the color. What does that mean? It means that you're choosing a white color for whatever it is that's laying over it. So it's kind of like a cutout. You're knocking it out from the black below. And if I create these little highlights for you, what I'm intending to show you here is how, by doing this, you are creating a relationship for the letter forms, but you're also encouraging the viewer to look through and look for the dynamic element of movement for these. So here you've got, by turning the letters on their side and placing them inside the P, right, I created this pattern of vertical and horizontal, which draws the eye sort of up and then out. And over here, I've sort of I've rotated the R and the F and placed the F over the other letter forms, and I'm creating this sweeping movement for the eye from left to right. And then here it's reversed. The R has been rotated counterclockwise and placed against the P with the F in between. So I think one thing that's kind of, I think, super interesting about this particular one is that I like how the R, I also changed the R so that it is a serif, and the F and the P are sans serif. So, feel free to, experiment with different type styles, and you can mix, old style with, sans serif, etc. But I like how the R creates this little piece here that comes out into the P. And I will post this file in the assignment page so you could download it without the work that I've done, but then you can also just put your your 9 different solutions here. You might want to do a quick affinity tutorial on layers, because I actually went back in. Every time you create a new object, whether it be text or anything else, Affinity creates a separate layer, so it can get kind of messy. So you might want to grab layers and then use the group tool to group them, or you might want to use the lock and the unlock tool, and that's under select as well, to help you in making this a little bit easier. So, all right, enjoy.